Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast. On today's show, I'm so pleased to have Alex Snyder. He's the founder of FrikinTech. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning, Brian. Glad to be here.
So, Alex, I've followed your career. We met initially at Checkered Flag Automotive Group when my company was first starting out in cash for clunkers and offering dealers SEO. For listeners who are not familiar with your career, can you give us a little thumbnail of some of the things that you've done?
Funny you mentioned cash for clunkers. I just had a memory of us staying up from we'd get on the phone at 8 p.m. and we'd be at it till midnight trying to update all the various Checkered Flag websites to get ready for those programs. Do you remember that?
That's right, Alex. I had the cashforclunkers.net website. It was a pretty fun time.
I remember that too. It's some good memories, by the way.
Absolutely. What else were some of the things that you did, obviously, starting at Checkered Flag?
Yeah, so I think it's worth mentioning for transparency's sake that Checkered Flag is my family's dealer group. And I got my start there not out of desire, but out of punishment. I got in a little trouble at school, and my grandfather put me to work washing cars. And this was many, many years ago. In fact, it was 1989. And I had to pay off something I vandalized at school, realized at that time that I enjoyed making money. So I hung around and continued to do that. And then, somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s, started to get involved with the internet side of the business and sort of found a calling there, I guess you could say. Eventually in 2010, I was approached by dealer.com to come in and help them build a CRM. And we did that, and it was the fastest growing CRM the car business, I believe, to this day has ever seen. But unfortunately, it met its demise after the Cox Automotive acquisition of dealer.com and DealerTrack. We were at that time, I think we were like 3 years in the marketplace and had multiple millions in revenue, but we weren't in the hundreds of millions of revenue that Bin Solutions was. In the financial battle, we just couldn't compete there. We were just too young.
Yeah, and understandably, it's tough to be a company with multiple acquisitions and having multiple products under the same category. And then after you left dealer.com, took a little time off, and then lo and behold, I saw that you created a new company called FrikinTech. Why did you get back into automotive?
I can't leave the car business. I was born into it, and I know that sounds corny, but it is a technical statement, and I love it. I am one of those weird people who really enjoys talking to car dealers and then also working with the vendors and even the manufacturers, and trying to be someone who can translate some of the more complex things that happens into things that all parties can understand.
Well, Alex, the reason why I wanted you to come onto the podcast is because I've been following what your company's been doing. I've been seeing some of the posts that Christine and you have put up online, really of transformational stories of helping dealers with some of the pain points that we're still experiencing in 2020. The company itself helps dealers in 4 ways. With lead response with some amazing technology, some smarter marketing to reach in-market local consumers, some merchandising for the website, even tools for the showroom. But before we go into those 4 product categories, if you met a dealer at NADA and you had 1 minute to tell them what you did, what would you say to that dealer?
I would say that FrikinTech is short for frictionless technologies, and our long-term vision is to remove the friction between dealers and their customers. In the short term, what we're discovering through all of these various methods of touching the dealers and their customers is that very quickly you can turn from having a defensive sales experience to a collaborative sales environment with the customer.
Alex, when you say collaborative, that word can have so many meanings. What does it mean for FrikinTech?
For us, it's very easy to talk about. So traditionally, when a customer is in the showroom with a salesperson, that salesperson is getting up many times to go approach the sales tower if it's a negotiable dealership. And that negotiation part is where trust breaks down between the dealer and the customer. Every time that salesperson gets up, it's less trust, it's more aggravation, more friction. And that can take an hour, easy. But and it's defensive. It's trying to hold your ground. Why is my trade only worth that much? Why is your price so high? That kind of thing. And in a collaborative environment, it changes the conversation from why is your price so high? Why is that processing fee so high? All that kind of stuff too. Well, how much money should I put down? Should I lease or should I loan? And these conversations are a lot faster when the IllumiQuote, which is our product, is used in the showroom. And we'll probably talk a bit more about that in a little bit, right?
Yes. And so let's start with one of the common problems that dealers have is they have a website. That website captures consumer data in forms, and those leads go into the dealer CRM. The BDC or salespeople are trying to engage, but dealers are clearly frustrated at the response rates, the engagement. And one of the first things I heard about with your product strategy was IllumiQuote was significantly increasing engagement. And of course, dealers have heard that so many times before, promises of better templates or better email delivery. But I know you, and I trust when you tell me that dealers are just blown away with what's happening. What makes IllumiQuote different? Since it works with all CRMs, you're not asking the dealer to change technology, but obviously you're changing something. What is it that's revolutionizing the way dealers collaborate with a consumer who's not in the showroom but decided to fill out a lead form?
Well, I think to answer that, I need to take a few steps back, and I need to give a shout out to John Berna at Driven Data, who has been analyzing dealers' databases for the last 5 years. And specifically, John's been sharing some data with me showing the state of lead response and actually closing rates on those leads from 2016 to right into January 13th, 2020. And what we're seeing is a steady decrease in closing rates and engagement rates. So in 2016, let's talk about the closing ratio for a minute. Looking at millions of leads across the nation from all brands, used car, new car, all across. In 2016, you're seeing just less than 7% of internet leads being closed, turning into sales. And by the end of last year, we were just above 5% as a nation. And you start to look at what's going on and trying to figure out what's happening and why was it when I was an internet manager, was I having closing rates up in the the teens? Why has it gone down so much? And it's hiring issues, trying to have the right people on staff, training issues, things that dealers always will struggle with. But also some technology has been inserted as well. So what you see in a lot of places that believe they're very much on their lead game, they're sending a lot of responses, and they're sending very quick responses. They're stopping the clock almost immediately. They're doing it with some AI. They're doing it with a salesperson reaching out to the customer, an internet person reaching out to the customer, even maybe a sales manager doing it. And maybe it's all programmed into the CRM. And what's really lacking, what is, and this, I'm going to give away the secret sauce here because it's really simple, is that very few dealers are actually responding with a quality first response. We call it an FQR, a first quality response. And what we see a lot of the time is that first response is, hey, we got your lead. Here's a little bit about ourselves. We've been in business for 5 billion years, and da 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 da, and not a single response about what the customer asked. Where's the price? Where's the the trade-in? Where's the whatever the customer asked for? There's nothing in there about it. And then the second response is, hello, I'm so and so. Would you like to text? I'd be happy to text with you. All right. And then the third response is, I'm so and so, maybe a totally different person at this point, and I just want to introduce myself. Blah 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 blah. So, without getting too lost on that string of events, the real moral of the story is the dealers don't send a quality response till way later, and they're not doing it right up front. And it's hard to send a quality response because that quality response typically requires a price or a payment or a trade number or an APR or who knows what. And we have automated that first quality response to give that customer everything they could possibly need to make a financial decision.
So Alex, without getting into the weeds, because obviously we have a lot to cover today, when someone turns on IllumaQuote, when you go into their VIN Solutions or eLeads or Drive-Centric CRM and get it configured to respond to leads with IllumaQuote, what type of lift in engagement, right? Because this shouldn't be, it's going to take 30, 60, 90 days to see an improvement. If a first quality response is so critical to engaging the consumer, what can you tell dealers, sales managers, BDC managers who are listening to today's podcast on what they could expect?
This one's funny to me because it's taken me a while to get comfortable with the numbers because it's been such a jump that it's almost unbelievable. And so we have seen an average of somewhere around 16% of dealers before they use IllumaQuote, engaging with their customers. So 16 out of 100 leads, they're actually getting a response from that customer. With IllumaQuote, we have seen a 4 times increase on that. And in some cases, we've seen dealers go from 16% to over 80%.
So with more responses, with more conversations, the dealers who are listening to today's podcast are going to want to jump ahead and say, Alex, listen, got it. Who wouldn't want to go from 16% to 60% two-way engagement rate? I'm all in. But what can you tell me about appointments? Is this tool directly correlated with appointments, or, well, is it just, hey, you have a better first quality response, but at the end of the day, the same number of people are kicking tires, the same number of people are going to come in? Any anecdotal or any measured evidence on what happens to total appointments per month? Because it's not your job to sell the car, but surely dealers would expect some help in getting that customer in the door.
It's actually, it's a great question because it's when you change something upstream, everything downstream changes too. So when it comes to getting more engagement, having more conversations, let's say you've got a 50% appointment setting rate right now. So if you're talking to 16 of your 100 leads, then you're getting appointments with 8 of those, for instance. Now, if you start talking to 60 of your 100 leads, well, you'll probably find that you're getting 30 appointments now. It's a direct correlation.
And then, in addition to IllumaQuote, you have a product called Response IQ, which is kind of packaged with this lead response. It's your virtual BDC. Can you explain to dealers how Response IQ can help them, and in what cases would a dealer want to use Response IQ?
So there's there's a lot of ways to answer this. So first and foremost, we saw that this first quality response was so strong that we realized we also needed to tackle the phones. And that's what our virtual BDC does, is it is calling those same people and asking them if they opened their quote yet. We sent them a quote. It's not we're calling and calling blindly and saying, hey, can you schedule an appointment with us for Saturday? It's none of that. It's, you've got a customer and, they've received a quote, and the difference in the conversation is night and day. You've actually got something to talk about. Our BDC is very experienced. It's in the United States as well. And I think the average experience over there right now is about 3 years per person who have been calling automotive customers in the car business on behalf of dealers. So it's very hard to hire that kind of experience and keep it consistently.
That's for sure.
And they also work on Sundays. So dealerships that aren't open on Sundays still get a lot of business happening on their websites, and we see it big time in IllumiQuote. So yeah, Response IQ can really work two ways. It can work with your current BDC. In fact, if I were back at Checkered Flag and it was the same setup that I had 10 years ago, we had about 9 BDC agents, and we were handling more leads and phone calls, inbound phone calls to the stores, than really 9 people can handle, which is probably the story of every internet department in BDC across the nation. And what I would do is I would use the Response IQ or the FrikinTech BDC to help target the customers that need to be talked to. I would have all the junk stuff and have Response IQ calling just making sure that there's a customer on the other end for my people to work. And I would take that 9-person BDC down to like 3 people. I think that could have handled the volume and had a lot more quality going on. And the other side of it is of course, we can be the dealership's BDC. So you can buy the Response IQ in packages of time. So do you want us to do 48 hours of lead follow-up, 5 days of it, or 2 weeks of it? And we'll add more flavors in time. So it can either be a full-on BDC, so you don't have to go hire one, manage one, and worry about healthcare and benefits and all those kind of things, or it can be a real complement to what you already have. And I did forget to mention one thing. We strive to not make dealers log into other things and work alongside what dealers already do. It's hard enough to have 40 logins for different things and get training on all this different stuff. So IllumiQuote works within the dealer's CRM already, so you don't have to have salespeople doing anything different. And then the Response IQ, our BDC, works inside your CRM as well. So you can monitor them just like you're already monitoring your sales staff, your current internet department, and whatnot.
That's awesome. And when we talk about the success of IllumiQuote, it's because that first response is a full-blown quote with payments and information. I would assume, though, Alex, since consumers don't need or don't feel the need to always submit a lead, can we take this technology, place it on the website, or use it in the showroom? How are dealers using your tech to actually create a more collaborative experience on the website or in the showroom?
Yeah, so as we were building out the CRM automation, the day we released it, one of our very sharp dealers, I'll just call him Josh right now, he knows who he is. Basically, he looked at the notes about what we had done, and he sent us a text, and basically said, "Hold my beer." And And 30 minutes later, he sent another text and said, hey, go look at my website. So you go on his website, and IllumiQuote's in his website all of a sudden. So we never intended to go out and actually be on the dealer's websites. It wasn't our vision to ever be a quote unquote, because I hate the term, but a digital retailing solution. However, I can say though that the dealers that do use this on their website and are presenting a consistent experience from the time the customer starts to interact with the dealership to the way their people are interacting back with the customer before they come in, to even when they do come in and presenting the payments or a IllumiQuote, as another one of our dealers likes to say, Matt Haken, that is, under glass. He does his under iPads and whatnot. But when you present the same consistent experience, so it's the same numbers every time, the conversation changes. That's where you go from, them questioning every number that you show to, okay, let's, am I on the right car? Should I lease this? I never thought about leasing, I like the payment at 5,000 down, but I only have 3,000 down, that kind of thing. And it's a totally different conversation when the customer is looking at you as a trusted advisor.
So Alex, let's try to help dealers and sales managers differentiate where you are today versus other choices. Let me set it up this way. I think that IllumiQuote, with being able to move a dealer's two-way engagement rate from 16% to 60% and having significantly more appointments set from the BDC or using your virtual BDC to supplement, that's a home run just in itself. But when we talk about now putting tools on the website, when we talk about having an iPad showing payments, we are now in a very competitive space where you have Cox and CDK/eLead, you have Prodigy, you have other desking tools or client presentation tools or menu-driven tools that are out there. So how do you explain to a dealer why your presentation layer to the consumer is equally or more effective than probably 24 other companies that are calling on the dealers to do more collaborative selling in the showroom?
Well, Brian, I would never call out something that we may or may not compete against as less effective. I really don't know. So I don't use those other products. All I can say is that when presenting the consumer with a consistent presentation across all the places the consumer would digest anything that you are presenting, it changes the world.
And so are you saying then, and maybe you're not saying that here, let me take credit for this thought because I want to put words in your mouth. I think that there are companies out there, for example, DealerFire/Dealer Socket. They use the same payment engine in their digital retailing tool called Precise Price, and it's driven by the same technology that their tablet in the showroom has. But I'm not sure, at least from my testing, that dealers are presenting that first quality lead response with the same, degree of consistency. I've looked at hundreds of dealer CRMs who are using digital retailing, and for the most part, it comes in as a super lead, and the dealer is not changing any responses, and the salesperson's quote could be very different even from the numbers that were presented to them online. So what I'm hearing is maybe the differentiation is from the initial first point of contact, and every point thereafter, they're seeing exactly the same presentation.
That's right. And there's a key thing in this as well, is that the sales manager has to be bought in. So if the sales manager is still using the DMS for coming up with payments or a totally different pencil tool, And it's still okay to do that, I should say. But if the presentation in the showroom is being done through a different device, then it starts to dissolve some of the trust and the transparency expectation the customer has developed along the way.
Well, I will tell you just from my personal experience, and some of you may have saw that I posted on Facebook recently. I'm trying to help someone buy a new Jeep Grand Cherokee. And, he lives in New Jersey, he's family friend, so I'm trying to help out. And it's amazing how much additional emails and clarity I have to send out. Now, listen, I don't want all the addendums. I want an out the door price, and, no, I don't need all the, can you give me a price? And because you can't get it when you submit a lead, and you surely can't get it when you're on the website. And I would love an opportunity to get a clean upfront number that would hold, so that we don't have to put baby gloves on our family and friends, which is indicative that we know that the process is broken.
Take it a step further. One of the other issues that dealers have is they're mostly paying attention to maybe one or two lenders and not the wide gamut of lenders that are available to the consumers out there. So for example, or let me take a quick step back and say that we pull in, based off the dealer's configurations, the best payment scenario per the term, the down payment, the mileage if it's a lease, and so forth and so on. A lot of the time, that's not always the captive lender. So we have a Chrysler store that constantly gets surprised because Ally and US Bank have a tendency to beat Chrysler to death. It's huge. It's $20 to $100 a month difference sometimes. And then one of the craziest examples I've seen is Toyota. I guess it was like 2 months ago. The Tacoma had especially the two-wheel drive Tacoma had a crazy residual, and came out from Toyota at the beginning of the month. And I was in our tool, I was looking at some of our Toyota dealers, and you could see the two-wheel drive Tacomas were leasing a 36-month lease, just a little over $200 a month. So about a week or two goes by, I'm back in there, I'm looking at Toyotas again. And all of a sudden, the lease payment's now under $200 a month. What's going on here? So I go in, I look at it, and like, sure enough, it's Ally now. Toyota's been beaten out. And then another week goes by, and somebody brings it to my attention this time. They say, hey, the Tacomas are like $180 a month with, very little out of pocket. And now US Bank is beating them both out. US Bank comes back with a better money factor and a better residual. So if dealers aren't keeping up with the changes to the programs on their own cars, and they're just sticking to a captive lender or just sticking to a floor rate, there's some potential to lose some business to the competitor who is paying attention.
Great words of advice. And it just shows how technology is so key now into eking out profitability by really converting as many of those customers that reach out to the dealer into a customer with a smart financing. Alex, I want to cover one thing before we close our podcast. So let's review. AlumaQuote and Response IQ is helping dealers deal with internet lead response, and with a significant increase in engagement rate and appointments. And the dealer can put AlumaQuote on their website. They can use it on iPads in the showroom. But another problem that dealers have is, Brian, I just need more opportunities. I was talking to a dealer the other day, and they were cutting a big chunk of money out of their marketing budget. And they said, where should I put it? And believe it or not, they were doing a lot of the things that dealers traditionally do, making sure they're on Facebook, making sure they're using third-party classifieds. But you have a unique partnership with Driven Data to help on the demand side, or the opportunity generation strategies. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'd love to. And actually, I'd love to for you and John Berna to speak one day. He's brilliant. So John Berna is the founder and CEO of Driven Data. and been a longtime friend of mine through Dealer Refresh. And we came together because we recognized some significant opportunities. He's been a data analyst of the dealer's database. So he's been looking at the CRM and the DMS and then mixing in inventory data and mixing in some website data and coming to some pretty strong conclusions. It was about 2 years ago, he called me and said, Alex, I've been doing this for a while. I've got a number of dealers and all the data is telling me the same thing. The advertising is getting wasted. There's so much wasted money being spent on it. And we can really do a better job at this. So he spent the next 2 years really putting something together and that really focuses on advertising that is directly to the consumer, or I should say that is directly targeted to people in the dealer's database. So he's got ways of looking at it and saying, okay, this customer is going to be in the market probably in the next month. He knows that some customers are in the market before that customer even knows they're in the market. And that can be for sales or service. He takes an approach where there's about 6 months of time. And at the beginning, you do some light ads, some branding ads, trying to create awareness. And then as the customer is moving through time, and also as they're starting to engage a little more with some of these ads, you can start to dial it up. So, you take them through the awareness phase and you take them into maybe you're trying to land them on something on the website to nail them down a little further. And then lastly, we hit them with IllumiQuote as the last piece. So we land them on IllumiQuote. It's the exact payment they saw in the ad, and they're able to play with it and do all sorts of things. And that has been pretty amazing in itself for first-party lead generation. We also do some neat things within the landing pages themselves where we have what's called an unknown customer, an unknown customer. So when somebody is unknown to us, we don't know who they are, they're an unknown visitor, maybe another word you want to label them as, we present them with a different experience within their IllumiQuote landing page. So, and this works for your website as well. So we don't show them payments with taxes and fees included. The dealer can configure whether they're looking at a range of payment. So it's $100 to $150 a month for this car. And then they can also do roundups. So if you want to round to the nearest $10 increment or whatever, or show them something with some pennies on the end of it, it's all configurable by the dealer. But what we're finding is by giving somebody this not exact number, that they're revealing themselves better, because we have these calls to action that are not get your e-price or anything like that. It's get your out the door payment, with title taxes and fees included. Other ones, personalize your experience, things like that, or figure out what your taxes are on this car. And those are all in that consumer's face, and they do it. They click it. They say, here I am, tell me more. And if you're looking to increase the first party leads that you're creating, it's a pretty damn good way to do it.
I would agree. There's a number of companies who have presented either at the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit or the upcoming Digital Marketing Strategies Conference in our 11th year this year, talk about using big data and smarter targeting. So I'd love to talk with him and understand what he's doing, even getting him on a podcast as well. Alex, we've covered a number of things, all of which I think are relevant for today's automotive retail experience. Dealers need to be increasing their appointments based on leads. They need to be engaging, creating consistency. They know that. They need to be building trust. If a dealer wanted to learn more about your technology, which website should they go to and who should they call?
Well, if you're looking for advertising, I would talk to Driven Data. It's driven-data.com. And then if you're looking for everything else, and of course we can help talk about the full package too with advertising, it's FrikinTech.com, and FrikinTech.
Great. And is there a best phone number or email address that people should use, Alex, to get maybe a demo set up or a look at the technology we've reviewed today?
Absolutely. There's always sales at FrikinTech.com. There's me. You can hit me at Alex at FrikinTech.com. I think our phone number is 833-FRIKIN-T or 833-FRIKIN-A, and those work as well. And yes, we are having some fun with our name.
Yes, I love it. Love it. Well, Alex, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast. We get a number of people from all around the world in automotive listening to this. So I hope dealers who are looking for a fresh way to energize the engagement rates of their leads, their websites in the showroom will reach out to you. If this is the first time you're hearing this podcast, you'll be pleased to know that every Monday we release a new episode. You can search it on podcasts on iTunes as the Pash On podcast, but the podcasts are also available on Spotify, SoundCloud, on our native platform, which is Libsyn, and of course, syndicated also on my YouTube channel. So wherever you'd like to listen to the podcast, please take some time to do it. We have dozens and dozens of automotive leaders that have been interviewed for this series. Just a reminder for all dealers that are listening, we have a couple upcoming great events. We have the Google My Business Masterclass on February 4th. We have the Automotive Marketing Bootcamp for Fixed Ops, March 18th in Fort Lauderdale. And of course, our second in our annual conference series, the Digital Marketing Strategies Conference. That's in Napa Valley. Each year we hold it in May. So that's coming up, and you can learn more about that at digitalmarketingstrategies.org. Thanks so much for listening to today's podcast. Please share it with a friend, and we look forward to spending time with you again in an upcoming podcast.